Reflecting on what has been done, he wrote, "Reality of what we are, so little and so nil, now jolts our senses from afar as beauty rides our hill." That's Dr. William Bauer's appraisal of his hillside home and refuge in the city of Ladysmith. These photos show it before Dr. Bauer and his family arrived 40 years ago. Where there once was stillness, there is the bubbling harmony of water. Where there was once a barren landscape, there are towering pines and spruce. It's a 1-acre plot of trees, wildflowers and shrubs, cascading spring-fed streams, and nearly a dozen trout ponds terraced on a steep bank overlooking the Flambeau River.
I love to be fishing, but I outlove the woods, the trees, the streams, the waters, all these things together.
You envisioned that here?
I envisioned that here, and since I couldn't be out in the streams and lakes as much as I wanted to, and the woods, what I did is I brought them here.
Piece by piece?
Piece by piece, I brought them here. Some of the trout, for example, that I caught way up in Canada with the permission of the Canadian government to make experiments on why the Nipigon trout, the speckles, were so much larger than anywhere else. I brought trout back from the West Coast. I did a lot of studies on them. So what we have here is not a trout hatchery, it's more of a trout laboratory. The most important thing I've learned is that the trout can add a little something to the life of any man who enjoys fishing. And the challenge of trying to understand trout and trying to catch them is something that is very invigorating and helps to keep a man young.
And he also gets that youth-sustaining medicine from spending untold hours building and maintaining the hillside, the trout ponds and their closed-cycle water system, and planting trees. It seems to suit Doc Bauer just fine, because at age 74, he has the physique and mental attitude of someone 25 years younger.
We do a lot of sitting in our lives, and it's comfortable, it's relaxing. It's just like we do a lot of eating. It's a wonderful indoor pastime. But when you have the God-given energy, and I think you can continue to have it if you use it. And so lots of the times, in between my office hours, in between the next morning's work, in between delivering babies, I was able to come out and do the work here. And little by little, it emerged. Sometimes it was forced upon me, like when I had some of the farmers would bring me some of the trees. I'd come home from the office, and in my driveway there might be 6 or 7 trees, 20, 22, 23 feet high. Well, they had to be planted right away, and if I got home late at 10 o'clock and got a bite to eat, sometimes I was out till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning getting those trees in the ground. Sometimes I also feel like I'm 90.
So for Doc Bauer, this is a holy place, a temple where he worships the trees, the fish, the water. Yet there is another in his life, the Brule River.
The Brule is my mistress. It is the place that I am most familiar with and enjoy the most. It has given me an awful lot in incentive, but most of all, it's given me something in rest.
Rest from life in the outside world, rest from encroaching years, that from 40 years of refuge in the arms of the Brule. And Doc Bauer, who is considered one of the river's top fishing authorities and defenders, writes of his experiences in a recently published book, Brethren of the Brule, in the process introducing us to a delightful group of fishers who also consider the Brule their mistress, their refuge, and their spiritual stomping grounds, where they practice the religion and communion of fish, water, and trees. The diehards, the aged and disabled, who would never leave the Brule, the young and the young at heart, those who wish it as the final resting place for their ashes, those who come for the total feast of the Brule in its every season. What draws them to the river? Doc Bauer gives us many reasons. The voice of the Brule, he writes, whispers and roars. It beckons and implores. It soothes and demands. It requires pride and eating crow. But the voice of the Brule is more than swirling and dashing of waters. It is more than the call of the wild. It is more than the leap of fish and tight lines. With its commitments, it's like a good marriage. It is irreplaceable. So it draws me back year after year.
The river sang in harmony with its wildlife. Huge evergreens whispered contentedly in the wind. as they towered above me, reminding me that my tall frame was, after all, quite small. 40 years this valley of the Wisconsin Brule has captivated me. Memories flood me with pleasure that now spills over into this book.
Your words now. Character is the sum total of how a person thinks and acts. The real test of character is not the size of a person's physique, the size of his intellect, the size of his bankroll, his position in society, or his choice of friends. Rather, it is how a person copes with life, how he faces his adversities and his adversaries. That's really you.
Well, I think that you're being very kind, but that is certainly something for all of us to aim for.
The adversary of age doesn't keep Doc Bauer from still making house calls to old patients, or even playing golf and basketball with friends. But the adversary of change troubles him. It is definitive and consistent. What happens to this place when you're not around to move the stones, to fix the steps, to watch the trout, to run the pumps, to protect the fish? What would you like to see happen to it?
What I'd like to see happen to it is what we all like to do. We'd like to think, well, if it would just keep on growing in grandeur and in beauty and wouldn't require quite that much. Yet on the other hand, I think the challenge of it helps to keep me relatively young. The value of creativity at any level is something that is lifeblood for all individuals.
This is your creation.
This is my creation.
And it's provided a life.
It has, very much so, and the hard part will be the time when I'll have to give it up. When I'm not physically able to do it anymore, or otherwise.
And he writes, "Beauty is so brief a thing in all our busy lives. It seems forever on the wing, though captured such a prize. The past and future loom as one, so close before our eyes. The precious moments that are done join those about to rise." Thanks for joining us tonight, and for photographers Brad Waite and Chris Karpinski, this is Dave Carlson wishing you a good week and good night.